Hey guys, this is Scott from the Forgot to Grow Up podcast. Welcome to another edition of Rewatch, Revisit, Review, where I rewatch a movie I haven't seen in a while, talk about my thoughts after revisiting it, and then give you guys my review for that movie. So this week I'm going to be talking about Jurassic World in honor of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom coming out later this week, and because I had watched these movies for the podcast, which also came out this week. You can find that on iTunes and stuff, also on the YouTube channel. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about Jurassic World today, okay? Guys, so let's just start with the rewatch section. Alright guys, so for rewatch, for those of you who are new to the series, I'm just going to give you the IMDb plot summary for the movie so you have an idea of what the heck I'm talking about today. Alright, so the IMDb plot summary for Jurassic World says, 22 years ago, after the original Jurassic Park failed, the new park, also known as Jurassic World, is open for business. After years of studying genetics, the scientists on the park genetically engineer a new breed of dinosaur. When everything goes horribly wrong, will our heroes make it off the island? And that's the plot summary, a little snippet so you guys have a general idea. It's another dinosaur movie, it's another Jurassic World movie. If you guys saw me talk about this last week, you know I enjoyed Jurassic Park more than I thought I did, but I'm still like I said, dinosaurs aren't my thing. Like growing up, like to this day, I prefer my superheroes and my Star Wars over dinosaurs. It's just how I am. I don't know. Anyways, so I rewatched this because we were talking about it for the podcast and because the new thing's coming out. I hadn't watched this movie since it had come out in theaters. So that's why it kind of falls under this category of rewatch, revisit, review video or movies, meaning I haven't watched it in a while. It's been 3 years since the movie had come out in theaters. I have definitely not seen it since then. I rewatched it with the original Jurassic Park trilogy. I watched it right after those last weekend, as again, like I said, for our most recent podcast episode. And so I rewatched at the end of that, checked it out on Netflix, and yeah. We should get to the revisits part now so I can talk about my thoughts. Alright guys, so my thoughts after revisiting Jurassic World was pretty much just felt the same way as I did before, which is there's a reason it's been 3 years. There's a reason I haven't watched it since this came out in theaters. Normally if I like a movie, that means I watch it as soon as it comes out on DVD, and I'll watch it a couple times after that. But this movie just didn't do it for me. And after rewatching it, like, I love Chris Pratt just because he's an MCU actor. That gets you bonus points in my mind. I'm biased like that. Same with the DCEU. If you've ever been in a superhero movie in general or a TV show, I just like you as an actor better. I'm sorry to the ones that don't do it. It's just how my life works. So the fact that Chris Pratt is in this movie is a bonus for me, but his character's still a little like meh. Like, this is my least favorite role of his that I've seen. I haven't watched all his things. I still haven't seen Passengers or whatever, that one he did with Jennifer, whatever her name is. That's not the point. The point is like, as you guys can see, this movie just never did it for me. I was never excited for this movie when it was announced. I saw it in theaters because I see stuff in theaters. I like to see the big blockbusters. I like to know what I'm missing, and I always like to give everything an opportunity. Alright, like as much as I'm kind of maybe, I don't want to say shitting on this movie, but I'm not like super psyched about this movie, and probably tell I'm not super psyched for Fallen Kingdom to come out, but I'm still going to see it nonetheless. We're talking about it on the podcast, so that's one of the things. But also I like to see these blockbusters. I'm curious what they do with it. I'm curious if they can hook me back in. I liked the original Jurassic Park, like I said, after rewatching it. If you watched last week's Rewatch, Revisit, Review, where I talk about my thoughts about Jurassic World, or if you check out the podcast, we talked about it for an hour and a half. The three of us guys talked about all 4 movies. And so I'm very indifferent when it comes to this franchise. It's not one that I mark on my calendars. It's not one that I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. When's the next one coming out? I'm just like, when they come along, I'll see them, but they're just in and out pretty much. And that's what this one in particular, Jurassic World, falls under. So what did I do now? One of the couple other things I wrote down are, I don't like the kids in this. They're annoying. It's one thing I always have trouble with a lot of movies. I find, like, I can't say, I don't like to generalize too much because then people will be like, well, what about this one? What about that one? But for the most part, I don't like many child actors, but it's not their fault. I blame it more on adults trying to write for children, and that's where you get that conflict where you have adults thinking that children act certain ways, and it's like, and it just makes it so unrealistic. And these kids especially just don't feel like real children to me. That's my main thing. Is a lot of these kids, I'm just like, I've never met that kid in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I've met plenty of people, and it's like when I was a kid, I never knew that kid. So that's how I feel about a lot of kids in a lot of movies, and in particular Jurassic World. These kids, I'm just like, these aren't real people. Like, and I get they're supposed to be fictional characters, but you're supposed to believe that they're real characters, right? Like, that's what the point of a movie is. It's the point of actors, is to make you believe. And I'm not blaming the actors as much in this as I'm blaming just what the roles that they're kind of their characters are put, or not the roles, the situations and things that their characters are put into. The two kids, it just annoys me. That's all. I don't have a specific example. I just had a general feeling of annoyance from the children in this. That happens a lot, like I said. What else? The characters, yeah, like I said, they all act like they're acting. I never believed any of them as their characters. Like, I always felt like I was watching a movie in this, and that's not a good thing from, like, coming from me. If I feel like I like to get lost in movies and in stories of movies, and if something doesn't, if it has certain, just not the right feel to it, then I can't really get into it, and I'm just sitting there being like, is this done yet? When's this? All right, there's the third act. Okay, we're good, kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's how this movie kind of feels to me. And they used way too much CGI. The thing about the original Jurassic Park was they did half the dinosaurs, or at least all like the very close-up dinosaurs. They used animatronics, and I feel like animatronics are definitely better nowadays and probably cheaper to make. Maybe not cheaper than CGI, I'll grant you that, but they're still cheaper to make animatronics, I imagine, than it used to be 30, 25 years ago. Yeah, 25 years since the Jurassic Park came out. And they had no problem doing the animatronics, and you kind of believed it. You get that tactile feel when you, like, especially when you're close up and they're petting a freaking dinosaur. Like, if you're having a character interacting, like, with a dinosaur, give me a real dinosaur. Give me well, not obviously not a real dinosaur, but give me a prop dinosaur as opposed to a freaking CGI block that the actor was pretending to pet or ride, and then you CGI it after. It's just obvious. It just takes me out of the movie. Again, like I said, this movie, like, the biggest complaint I have about Jurassic World is that I didn't get into it enough. It didn't, like, make me, like, fall into the movie. It just kind of it was just a movie, and it was playing, and I was absorbing it, but I didn't, like, I'm not saying I disliked it, but I'm not saying I liked it either. I got through this movie, all right? But again, I feel like I am shitting on this a lot. There are some good things about this movie. It's just not my kind of movie, is all. Like, like I said, I'm not the biggest into dinosaurs. I feel like a lot of things that this movie, in particular the Jurassic World one, took from the originals were some of the worst kind of things you took from the originals. They didn't take as many of the good ideas as they took some of the bad ones that didn't, like, they shouldn't have thought. Like, they thought the successful things about the original trilogy. I think those were the unsuccessful things about the original trilogy, and I think that's where me and Hollywood, I think, are differentiating on this whole franchise, is that the things they think that people want to see are the things that I'm just like, no, you need to tone that down. I don't need more and more CGI stuff. I would rather see less dinosaurs that were real than more that are CGI. And when I say real, I mean animatronic. Like, real as in a prop, a real physical thing that I could go and see in an exhibit in a month or two. Does that make sense? Like Batman v Superman, they put all the costumes and all the props out on display, and you can go see them, and you can see some of that in the movie, even though so much of that movie is CGI. Like, every background is like CGI in that movie, but they gave them real freaking costumes and real props. That was a real Batmobile, and I think that's where we get a little differentiation with some of these movies. And this Jurassic World, I felt they could have had a few more just actual animatronics and actual props as opposed to CGI everything. Like, everything. Like, I'll give them props for at least getting real grass, I think. I can't speak to that for sure. I'm not a CGI grass expert. But anyways, guys, that's all my thoughts from revisiting. Let's get on to the review section now. Alright guys, so what I do for each review, I'm going to give you the audience and critics ratings for this movie, and then I'll give you my personal rating after that. So, the IMDb rating for Jurassic World is a 7 out of 10. If you check out Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 71% on the tomato meter with a 6.7 out of 10 average score, and then we see the audiences give it a 78% on the tomato meter with a 7.8 out of 10 average score. And then Metacritic gave it a 59. So that's the lowest of all the scores we see, but generally most people give this a good mark, like a fair, not a great mark, but a good mark. And I definitely am not among them people. I'm a little lower. I'd probably be closer to Metacritic's opinion, which is my personal rating is just a 1 thumbs up, which is like a 50% in my mind. It's a movie, it's good enough. It wasn't terrible. There's nothing that I hated about it besides the children, but it's not terrible. Like I said, it's just not one that I want to revisit too often. I enjoyed the original better, but this one still isn't terrible. Chris Pratt's character is slightly interesting. Like, he felt slightly Indiana Jonesy, which I like. I like the idea of the hybrid dinosaur, even though I didn't love the way they executed it all over the place, but that was a cool idea. I think the main thing, guys, is that I should really like put as a big asterisk that I've said a few times, which is these movies just aren't for me. I'm not the target audience of the Jurassic Park franchise, particularly the Jurassic World franchise. I'm not the target market as much as they think I am, or most people would expect me to be. I just don't. I don't know. Dinosaurs just... Though these dinosaurs just don't do it enough for me. It's just like, it's a petting zoo with really dangerous dinosaurs or really dangerous things. It's like, okay, shit's gonna go bad. Like, why do we need movies about this? You know, like, to me, it just seems kind of redundant, but at the same time, like I said, I'm in the middle of the road for these movies. I'm just like, I neither hate them, like, even though this whole video seems very negative, that's just because it's easier for me to be negative about things than positive sometimes. Movies are usually pretty good at being a little more positive. This movie in particular, though, I just don't have the energy, to be honest. Like I said, I'm just so middle of the road for this and the new sequel coming out this weekend. Hopefully it's better than I think. I'm hoping that they shock me and do something I haven't already seen in their trailers. But again, we'll have to wait till I see that. And I'll give you guys my thoughts about that on the next episode of the Forgot to Grow podcast, which will be coming out in 2 Sundays from now. Yes, 2 Sundays from now. But yes, so let's move on to my favorite part of this, which is probably just the dino fight at the end. That's really the only thing that sticks out to me. Normally this is a little bit of a bigger section because I normally rewatch movies I like a lot more than this, but this movie just kind of happened to fall in the right kind of SEO and different stuff like that. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Anyways, the last part, guys, is just my recommendation, which is, I guess, why not? Like, if you like the original Jurassic Park movie, you may or may not like this movie. That's hard to say. Again, I like the original, just the first original. The trilogy is okay. The second and third are pretty meh. Again, you guys can hear my thoughts more, and everyone from the Forgot to Grow podcast on the most recent episode that's on iTunes and everything's below. But yeah, my recommendation just is, if you liked it, if you like dinosaur movies, you'll probably like this movie. But if you're like me and you're kind of indifferent to dinosaurs and the Jurassic World franchise, because I like the Jurassic Park franchise, but the Jurassic World franchise, this reboot, if you're just indifferent to it, then you could probably wait to see this or rewatch it. If you haven't seen it yet, maybe watch it if you feel like, you know, seeing what the big deal is, why they've got a sequel coming out, but it's not anything that you have to get to go, guys. But thanks for joining me this week, guys. Be sure to check out the rest of the stuff on the channel. And again, like I've said like 13 times, the Forgot to Grow Up podcast, most recent episode, which is also on all the Jurassic Park movies and Jurassic World. You can hear all our thoughts on that. But thanks again for joining me today, guys. Have a good one.